Welcome to A Walk in My Stilettos, where our goal is to help you walk in your greatness. I'm your host, Makini Smith. Hey, Faith Walkers. Thank you for joining us on the A Walk in My Stilettos podcast, where we have conversations with amazing women that are letting us step into their shoes. I get inspired when I see another woman succeeding, but as a mindset coach, what inspires me most is her backstory and her mindset on how she got there. So today's guest is about to bless us with her testimony. And since you're already here, you may as well subscribe. Today we have Kalilah Wright. She's an entrepreneur and the CEO of Mess in a Bottle, teas with empowering messages packaged in reusable bottles that give a voice to the voiceless. She's had major celebrities such as Luvvie, Ajayi of Awesomely Luvvie, Leana, Waithe of Netflix Dear White People, Yvonne Orji of HBO's Insecure, Angela Yee of Power 105.1 on the Breakfast Club, Serena Williams, and even Beyonce's stylist Tyrone have all been proud supporters of the brand. Kalilah's been featured on Teen Vogue, Essence, and more. So please welcome to the show, Kalilah.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on to share your story with us. It's an honor.
Thanks again for having me. I love podcasts like this because I think that people are really, intrigued and, they want to know about the journey. So I think this is really good.
Thank you. Thank you. A reason why I wanted to do a podcast like this is, social media shows you, the glitz and the glamour and a lot of people's highlights. And I'm one of those people that I love to share the journey in itself. I like to let people know about the pitfalls. I like to let people know that there are adversities, but you still push past them. And my show is all about that. So women like yourself who openly share, yes, you've reached and you're still trying to attain certain levels of success, but you've had your adversities along the way and you still push through. So I've watched you share many parts of your journey and I love your openness. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I mean, I think that in a day and age right now where sometimes on social media we're seeing a lot of filtered, we're seeing filtered people, not even just filtered images. It's filtered people where a lot of people are not being as forthcoming about their journey and, what they're going through.
Mm-hmm. So what I love to start the show with is an icebreaker question, because I feel like as women, we have all these different titles that we go by, but a title that I feel that we are called so many times a day that we disregard is our name, because our names have meaning. My question to you, Kalilah, is do you know what your name means?
I do. The Arabic meaning of Kalilah, it's the woman's, it's the feminine version of Khalil, and it means like friend. That's more or less the definition. It means like friend.
I love it. I love it. So every time somebody calls your name, they're basically declaring that you're a friend.
Yep.
Awesome. Awesome. So I want to go to the very beginning. Like, what did you want to be when you were a little girl? Because I knew that you were born in Jamaica and then moved to the US, but like, what did you want to be when you were little?
When I was little, I really wanted to be an architect. I think, from as far back as I can remember, it was just this profession. Like I loved art and and I gained to love architecture. I think that I loved art and fashion. Those were like my things. Like I used to cut up skirts and, I think I thought I was probably going to be a fashion designer. And then that transitioned into architecture. So, I really just I was always a creative. I was the girl with the pencil in the back, sketching and drawing through school. And I think that through the years, it just really transitioned to the technical side of things. And that's when architecture came into play.
Okay. So what inspired you to start Mess in a Bottle? Like, share with us like the whole backstory of how that started.
I live in Baltimore, Maryland, and I was an architect for Under Armour. And while I was at Under Armour, it was one of those things where I didn't know I was an entrepreneur. I thought I just loved design and I was just like a super creative. And in 2015, while at Under Armour, the Freddie Gray riots happened. Freddie Gray is an African American young man who died while in police custody. And they had riots in Baltimore that really sparked due to his death. And at the time, I was one of the few, or if not one of the only, African American women in my department, and it really felt like a lot of people were tiptoeing around this race conversation. And I decided to create Mess in a Bottle as a form of communication for people to really be able to have the conversation around race without it being offensive. And so, Mess in a Bottle, I created these messages where you could either stand in solidarity with someone, or even if you didn't agree with the message, it was one of those things that would create conversation.
I love that. I love that. So, how did it evolve to where it is today? Like, what do you think was, your kickoff point?
Well, so I left my full-time 9 to 5 job at Under Armour a month after I launched the company. I just really wanted to focus on Mess in a Bottle, and I knew that I really had something good. And I just told myself that I had 1 year to either really make this thing make me money and sustain a living, or I had to go back to doing architecture. So I focused on Mess in a Bottle, and for the whole year, I did a lot of just networking, going to conferences, making sure people knew who I was, what the business was, and I think that was, and I shared my story, I shared the journey, and I continue to be transparent on social media, talking about my business, sharing any trials and tribulations that I might be going through. And I think all of those things have really, I fostered a relationship with my audience, and it allowed us to grow. And, I think that when I win, the people in my tribe, they win as well. So I've created this community where people are wholeheartedly cheering for me, and they're excited when I win. So I think Mess in a Bottle, and they were excited to wear the messages. So it came from a lot of my supporters, fans, everything that every time I might have had an opportunity, it really came from people who supported me, who are like, hey, apply for this. Hey, did you see this application? And, and they were the ones who made sure that my name was in the room.
Wow.
So that is how I think Mess in a Bottle really spread like wildfire. And I had a good idea. I also say that I think I had good products with a great idea. So though, people pushed me along, I think that people have to also understand that you have to have really great products that someone will follow. And so if people won't follow it, if people don't think that it's good, then it's even no matter who you are. I've seen celebrities and people with very, high traction and following try to launch something that wasn't as successful. And I think that the thing is that if you have to have good products.
I agree with you. And I definitely believe that having a good product matters. But I think what resonates with me with your brand is how you share your story. You
Yeah.
share the good, the bad, the ugly. You share, your moments with your son. You share the tribulations of the business. You share when you're tired. You share your wins. You have created this community of people that are excited to see you win because we feel like we're winning too. Because it's not like, you're keeping all of your business to yourself and then all of a sudden, hey guys, yeah, I just got this great deal. There's a celebrity wearing my stuff, and we don't know what you had to go through to get to that point. You know what I mean?
Right.
I recall a post a while back on Facebook where you shared when you were robbed at gunpoint and the emotion in that post in itself. Like, how did you recover from that to rebuild your business?
I mean, it took some time to get through the robbery, but I think what I've realized, now maybe a year and a half after the incident, I realized that the robbery was something that is an obstacle. It's something that someone can go through. It could be a death in their family. It could be a stroke. It could be, any type of health concern. So things are going to happen. Obstacles are going to happen. Unfortunately, the robbery was my obstacle. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
something that I asked for. It wasn't something that I wanted, but it was something that became a part of my story, and it also was something that, like, now I have to, like, go through. So once I realized that and kind of healed from the trauma of the event, I also took some time to reflect. So I went running a lot, and I decided to run the New York Marathon as a form of getting through the robbery as well. And I also just realized that it is a part of my journey and it is a part of my story. It's not something that I asked for, but it happened. So I think at one point, I felt a little guilt in maybe talking about it. Like I didn't want to feel like, oh, did I get pushed further because of this horrible incident that happened? But I realized that, people, when you realize like your purpose as well as you realize what it is to share that, a lot of people, they found the good in saying, wow, if she can get over something like that, if she could get through something like that, I definitely can do the same, no matter what my issues are. So I think that those are the kind of things that have helped to push messing about all along.
I love how, you continue to share your story and it opens doors for you. And I think that that's something that the listeners should definitely take away from that, because many people feel like, they keep their story to themselves. And I understand that all of us, our story may be about us, but it isn't only for us. And we all have struggles. It's how we get through it. So watching you evolve and grow past that has been beautiful. I want to ask you, like, how do you balance, being a mom and building this brand and this business and, sharing on all the social media platforms and doing all that you do? Like, how do you balance all that?
I try to forgive myself every day. I haven't been doing the greatest job at it recently, but every day I try to, like, you have to realize it's a new slate. If you're fortunate enough to wake up to live a new day, I try to tell myself, all right, that diet I wanted to start that I wasn't on yesterday, you have the opportunity to try again today. So,
Mm-hmm.
Something like for myself where I'm like, okay, I may not have ate the best yesterday. That might not have been, and maybe you wake up in the morning and you still don't have to make the right choice. It's like, all right, start over at noon, start over at lunchtime.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the gym. And I think that that's the thing. Like I started this morning and I was like, Lord, I need to get in the gym. I'm not focused. I'm not balanced. And so then I said, oh, but I started the morning off by eating like a ton of granola. And that was definitely not in my diet plan. And so what I said to myself was, all right, you got lunchtime. Make some salmon, eat some Brussels sprouts, eat healthy for the rest of the day, and go to the gym today. Work off,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really about forgiving yourself and knowing no one's perfect. Everyone's going to make mistakes, but I think what becomes our problem is if we just continue in it and
Mm.
not solve the issue. So I think forgiving myself every day is just something, that I try my best to do, and then I try to fix it. You can't continue making the same mistakes and not fixing what the issue is and then expect different results.
Exactly. Well, that's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Right.
So, what inspires you the most about what you do?
I think what inspires me the most, it's always funny because I think most of the time people are like, oh, my parents or oh, my child or my spouse. But I don't think either one of those things for me. I think kind of but I think what inspires me the most is the fact that I can be the change within my like family
Mm.
lineage, like in the
Mm.
sense of like I could become the person that changes the generational wealth of what my family, can acquire. So,
Mhm.
my parents are immigrants. I'm an immigrant of Jamaica. My parents do not have a college education. They both have high school educations. And, they came to this country. They've been conditioned to working 9 to 5 jobs. That has been like the traditional, like immigrant kind of story. And I think that now I have the opportunity where I have a master's degree. I also, I have my own business. I'm being featured on television. So I think that what drives me is the fact that I can be the change where like my children's children can really like own their own company, and my son hopefully will go off to possibly, if he desires, to be an entrepreneur. So I think that for me, that is what drives me in knowing that I could be that change for my family.
I think that's big. Like, a lot of people who are going after things like everyone's driven by different things, and some people are driven by ego things or themselves. But for you, it's greater than you. You know, it's about breaking those generational curses. It's about leaving legacy. I love that. I love that. So,
Definitely is.
what advice would you give to a woman who's just starting to pursue her passion?
The advice I would give is taste yourself. And that's not an advice I take, and maybe this is me talking to myself,
Mm.
but definitely pace yourself. Pace yourself in not being too hard on yourself, like in regards to, I think as women, especially Black women, I think we put a lot of pressure. We're juggling so much family, and I think that pacing yourself and kind of forgiving yourself for maybe like not moving as fast, or it takes time. And I think that's the hard thing about entrepreneurship. We all want like the end result first.
Mm.
We all don't want to. I'm reading a book, it's called The Messy Middle. We don't want the messy middle. And the book itself talks about, like, most of the time people remember the beginning and they remember the end. They don't talk about the middle. But the middle is the journey. So I would definitely say to anyone getting started that they should pace themselves through this, because it's going to take time. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be hurdles you have to jump over. There's obstacles. So it's not just an easy task where it's like, okay, I'm done. And now you have this beautiful, pretty business wrapped up in a bow. That's not how it works.
Hmm. Which brings me to the next question I want to ask you. Like, because I follow you, I've seen the different adversities that you share. But for someone who is new to your journey, like, what other adversities have you had to experience to get to where you are?
I think just the transition of going from, I'm great at conceptualizing ideas, but now I'm transitioning into a business owner, and that's not an easy thing to do. Like I wasn't trained in business. So, me now learning all of these business terms and just trying to figure out how to really transition into a business is difficult. It's difficult on a day to day, just, building something from the ground up. And kind of keeping motivated. All of those things play a factor.
Have you had any coaches or mentors that have helped you along the way?
I've had several mentors and coaches. I have one young lady, her name is Tanya, and she's super amazing, and she helps me strategize, as well as sometimes I have bigger people like Bazoma St. John, and I have several different people who I consult and speak with, and they help to guide me, especially in the business realm of things.
Good, good. I think that's so important. I think we all need mentorship in different areas, in different forms of our lives. And I've heard, well, there's a group that actually we're both in that group on Facebook. I won't name the group, but I used to enjoy that group. And I seen a post one time where they were basically, I'm going to say, trashing the whole personal development process and saying that, it doesn't bring you any money to your business, which I disagree with. So when I see women like yourself building and you acknowledge that it's, mentors that have helped you in some way, shape, or form to get to where you are, I think that's important for people to understand. Like, we can be in business for ourselves, but we can't do it alone. We do need help and assistance and encouragement and people that have been where we're trying to go to help guide us.
Right. No, I totally agree.
So you mentioned after the robbery that you decided to start running and doing things like that. Like, what are some other things that you do? Like, what does your self-care routine look like?
I'm not one that has like this big, I won't make up this elaborate, like, I'm not one that has that, but I'm a person, I love architecture, so, it could be something like taking a weekend and really sitting quiet in a space and just, trying to flush out some ideas, trying to write some things down, renting an Airbnb and doing a staycation. It could be as simple as getting a manicure and a pedicure yesterday, or getting a massage. I think, and going to therapy. I'm a big advocate of going to therapy. I think
Mm-hmm.
that having being a trained professional to be able to like talk about how you feel, what you might be going through, like those are all things that I definitely don't take for granted. So I would say those are things that I, implement into my self care.
I think it's interesting how, you started answering the question by saying you're not really, big on elaborate things, but you have some really significant things in place, like your staycations, that's, your rest and getting away, your meditation, which is important, massages, therapy, which is a big one, and mani-pedis. Those are all great self-care regimens. So don't downplay
Right.
that.
You're right. You're right.
I came across this Reader's Digest article a while back that said that a person's favorite type of shoe says a lot about their personality. And so far, it's been pretty on point. And I mean, it's no secret that I'm obsessed with stilettos, hence the name of the brand. But my question to you, Kalilah, is what is your favorite type of shoe? Is it a boot, a running shoe, a walking shoe, flip flops, stilettos, pumps, flats? What's your favorite?
Well, right now I'm definitely a big fan of like a not so high, a not so high heel. I definitely love a not so high heel, and I've been really experimenting with this socks and shoe kind of vibe, and it's been really cute. So I would just say I'm not into high heels. I'm not into uncomfortable shoes. Like none of those speak to me, and I am a big fan of sneakers right now. Like give me a pair of really old Converses, and I think that's probably my favorite kind of shoe is like a really worn Converse. Yeah, I think it just says a lot about the character of that person.
Okay. They say that sneaker buffs get along with everyone. You're someone who relates to people much younger than you, yet also feels comfortable conversing with someone much older. Sometimes you're an old soul, and sometimes you're the life of the party. For sneaker buffs, age truly is but a number because you get along with everyone. The sneaker is very versatile, very open person willing to explore a lot of options and different ideas. They're energetic and ageless. They're really not young or old. They seem to move fluidly through age-specific groups.
I love it.
Okay. Does that sound like you?
It's definitely me.
Okay, so before we go to the final segment of the show, I want you to tell people where they can stay connected with you online.
You can stay connected with me at messinabottle.com. On IG, we're also Mess in a Bottle. Also, on Instagram, I am owner of Mess.
Love it. Okay. So for the final segment of the show, sometimes I call it a walk in her stiletto. Sometimes I call it a walk in her wisdom. I can't quite figure out which I want to call it yet. But today we're going to call it a walk in her sneakers. So I'm just going to ask you a couple of reflection questions and you say the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Name a book that has changed or greatly impacted your life.
The 12-week year.
Okay. Can I ask why?
Yeah, 12-week year. It's a book that kind of helps you to organize your thoughts, get some things done. So it's allowing you to really not sit in your confused state. It's pushing you to gain a rhythm and just to figure things out and get things done. Yeah, and I think it's a great book for people like me with who are designers, who have a lot of thought and so it's been helpful in strategizing better.
Love it. I'm going to have to add that to my reading list. Okay. What failure has taught you the most about life?
I think my son having issues with reading in school, he's just at that age where he's still learning. So it's not as much a failure, but I think that it's one of those things where it's taught me to be patient with the process. It's difficult, especially with children, but I think that that's one of the jobs that I'm most hardest on myself about. Like, I don't care. Of course, I care about the business, but I don't care if the business doesn't succeed. I care more if my son doesn't succeed. So I think just those lessons have, yeah, that's an important one for me. But I think it's just telling me to continue to be patient.
I think that's a big one. I've got 3 kids, and my middle child, who may kill me if she ever hears this, but so she had a lot of trouble in school, and she years ago was diagnosed with ADHD, and I feel like she's brilliant, but when it comes to schoolwork, she struggles. She struggles to pay attention. She struggles to do things the way that other people in the classroom do. But she's got so many other genius qualities that excel. And I feel like watching her process has also taught me to be patient with other people, patient with people's different skills and learning abilities. And it's made me now have this perspective that schools can be kind of outdated. Like if we look at the school systems now, they're created for kids to conform and to memorize certain things and to regurgitate things. But if we look at 2019, the way that life is, if you need to know something and you Google it, that info is like at your fingertips. So some of the things that they're putting pressure on these kids to learn, and that, starts to affect their self-esteem because of their grades, are things that in today's day and age aren't necessarily a necessity for them to even learn.
Right.
But anyway, back to you. So if you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say and why?
If I could have a gigantic billboard, I think that I would want it to say, "This is your mess. This is your message." Because I think we all need a wake-up call, no matter, what it is. And I think we all would interpret that message to be whatever we were going through, whether it was something in regards to your career or your love life or, so I think that having a big old billboard saying this is your message would serve as a wake-up call to all of us to figure out, what do you want to do?
I love it. I love it. Okay, name one of the most worthwhile investments you've ever made. And that could be money, time, energy.
One of the most worthwhile investments I've ever made would possibly be some investments in these business groups. I spend a lot of time in them, and I think that in return, I've made some really great connections where people, some of those people are now working for me. So I think that I've made some really good investments in, social media, but in the right ways.
I love that. What impact do you want to have on the world?
I want to be a changer, a person who definitely starts conversation, a person that allows you to think and question things. And I think that I just want people to know that they can. I think I represent hope for a lot of people. And so I just want people to try their best to accomplish everything and anything that they would want to go after.
What new belief, behavior, or habit has improved your life in the last 5 years?
I think just taking the time that I need out for myself definitely has helped. Meditation also is something that I'm trying to implement a little bit more into my day to day. So I think those are really, things that have helped.
What have you become better at saying no to in the past 5 years? And that could be distractions, invitations, family.
I've started saying no to things that I don't want to do. I realize those things take me the longest to do because I just don't want to do them. So I've started just really evaluating the things that I don't want to do and trying to say no.
I think 95% of the women that I've had on the show have said that. I think it's important to understand that it's okay to say no to things that you don't enjoy doing. I love that. Okay. What advice would you give your younger self?
I would give my younger self the advice to not be so hard on myself, and it's okay to be lost and not know exactly where I want to be. A lot of the times I think that, we want to figure it out and we want the end result. And again, now I know that everything I went through was to get me where I am today.
Okay, last but not least, where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
5 years from now, I see myself on track to really be a big mogul in the business world. So I really see myself owning several different businesses, managing them, and making them really, really, really powerful and, something that like a household name.
Love it, love it, love it. Kalilah, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us. I want to thank you for sharing your story with us and leaving us with all of your gems. I truly appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And to all of our faith walkers out there, until next time, subscribe to our newsletter at awalkinmystilettos.com and grab one of our personal development books available online everywhere. And if you've received value from today's show, share it with a friend that needs to hear Kalilah's testimony. Be sure to screenshot this week's episode and tag us on Instagram at Mess in the Bottle and at The Real McKinney Smith, and continue to walk in your greatness in a manner worthy of your calling.